Perfect. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aziza Muzamil, Business Development Specialist for the Department of Small and Local Business Development. Today, I will be going over the grant information session for the FY25 CBE Sustainable Energy Grants, which opened this Monday. The session is being recorded, and we will post this recording to the SLBD's YouTube page, and we will share that link via email to all registered later this week. Additionally, we do ask that you type your questions in the Q&A function or in the chat, and we will address it at the end. We will start shortly. We're just going to let a couple of more people join us. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and start with the information session. Again, we are going to be covering the FY26 CBE Sustainable Energy Grants, which opened on February 16th, this past Monday. In this session, our agenda, we're going to be starting off by reviewing key information from the RFA. After we review the RFA, then we're going to do a quick demo of the DES application portal. For those of you that have or may have applied for the CBE, previously known as CBE Green Grant, you know this is a change from Zoom grant, so we think it will be helpful for you to sit in this demonstration. Additionally, we will be reviewing the RFA, but it is important that you do your own RFA review. We will not be doing an exhaustive review, meaning we will not be covering all points or sections of the RFA, just key dates, deadlines, and really just covering things that we often see that cause businesses or applicants any confusion. So again, you want to make sure that you do your own review of the RFA. You can find the RFA on DSLBD's website under current funding opportunities under the grant name FY26 CBE Sustainable Energy Grants. Moving on, the grant purpose for this year is it's a DSLBD initiative to support CBEs in the energy efficiency/reduction, electrification, renewable energy, and other related green energy markets. Again, this is a partnership with the Department of Energy and Environment, in which DSLBD will be supporting CBEs by helping them prepare for opportunities with DOEE, the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, and other market opportunities. I do know that I called out a few key terms. I know those terms may not be the clearest. There is an appendix within the RFA, Appendix E, that defines all these terms for you. So if you're unfamiliar or you just want to make sure that as you're completing your application, you're addressing the right topics that we're looking for, please make sure that you review Appendix E, which defines these terms for you as we see them. Grant objective, here we're going to go through all the different grant programs under the FY26 CBE Sustainable Energy Grant. This year, it is broken up into 3 grant programs under the umbrella of the grant program. First is the CBE Energy Contract Services. Here, we're looking for 2 CBEs to provide direct marketing, back office, and training services to strengthen CBE preparedness and competitiveness for green energy and sustainable infrastructure and energy-related procurement opportunities. These awardees or grantees will be required to serve at least 35 CBEs in either through training sessions or one-on-one consultations. We do want to make sure, as you'll see when you start the application within DES, if you're choosing to apply for the CBE contracting services, you will have to choose whether you're providing marketing services or back office, which contains operational management, process streamlining, customer service, and pricing. And you want to speak to that within the narrative portion of your application. The second grant program is the Energy Expansion Grant, which is a little different from the previous years we did this. This will be for up to 4 DC-based businesses, so that's also a big change. This is not exclusive to CBEs. While CBEs may win this award, it is open to just DC-based businesses as well. And the expansion grant will provide funding to a grantee to implement their proposal. So you'll see that they will be providing a funding proposal related to green energy, energy efficiency, reduction, electrification, and or renewable energy projects. And we want to be able to provide funding to enhance or scale that business model. And then last but not least is we have the CBE Energy Business Support Lottery Grants, which is something we had in the previous years. Main changes, 2 things. This will be a reimbursable grant. If you're familiar with the grant last year, it was an advance. This year, it will be a reimbursable. And also, this will be for small business enterprises and resident-owned enterprises. So you must, under your CBE certification, you must have those subcategories as well. And we will be awarding these grants to up to 10 CBEs. And this will be conducted via lottery. So as long as you meet the eligibility requirements, we will do a lottery. And if you're selected and you meet the other criteria, that will be how we operate the lottery grants. And also in terms of the lottery, you want to make sure that those costs incurred do have to be within the fiscal year. FY26 fiscal year started on October 1st, 2025. So you want to make sure that if you do plan to apply and get reimbursed for these things, that the only allowed cost will be after October 1st, 2025. With that, we do also want to emphasize that we do not encourage you to incur costs in anticipation of the grant funds. Selection for the lottery does not mean you are guaranteed the money. It is depending on you providing the NOGA documentation, the Notice of Grant Award documentation, and the qualified receipts for the expenses that you submitted. So request for applications, this is the document that we will be reviewing in today's session. This is just a brief screenshot. This is what the first page of the application looks like on the screen. And again, if you are looking for the RFA, it is posted on DSLBD's current funding opportunities page. This is the hyperlink for it. And then to review some key dates, again, the application will be closing on Friday, scratch that, I don't believe that's a Friday, March 17th, 2026 at 2 p.m. Eastern time, no exception. You want to make sure that you get it in before that. Please don't wait till the last minute to make submissions. And then also the last date to submit questions will be next Friday, February 27th, 2026 at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Outside of this information session, all questions must be submitted in writing to the business.opportunities@dc.gov page. I do want to emphasize the time. Sometimes we do think that it's 5 p.m. or the close of business day. All the deadline dates are at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So please be mindful of that. Moving on to the eligibility. We'll be reviewing a couple of the eligibility requirements. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. We are just covering things that sometimes we see CBEs or businesses have questions on or might create issues for CBEs. So again, you want to go to the RFA under the eligibility section and review the full list. Starting off is the active CBE certification number. This applies to two portions of the grant, the CBE Energy Contract Services Grant and the CBE Lottery Grant. And you also want to make sure that when you look for your CBE number, you go through our CBE portal and pull that number from there. A lot of times we have CBE submit old numbers, not counting on the fact that when they recertify, that number changes. Our best advice to you is that you go through the CBE portal and pull that number from there, because that's where we verify it. So again, you want to make sure that you are providing your most up-to-date eligibility CBE certification number. Next is to provide an active DC business license number that is through DLCP. You want to make sure that, again, you are careful with how you're typing it out to make sure there are no typos or errors. For those of you that may not have a traditional DC business license, if you have alternative licensure, you also will need to upload that within the system, and we'll cover that in a couple of slides. Next is the Office of Tax and Revenue Compliant Clean Hands. This must be issued within the last 90 days of the application launch, within 90 days of the application launch, which for our grant will be November 17th, 2025 or later. You want to also make sure that the status on your clean hands is compliant, and you want to upload that within your application. You want to make sure that your notice number is clear for us to view, and you also want to make sure that you're monitoring your compliance status. If you are awarded the grant, you must maintain compliance status throughout the entire grant period, which usually ends on September 30th of the year. So for this year, September 30th, 2026. And then we will move to insurance. Commercial general liability insurance is required regardless of the type of grant and the type of business. So that is a requirement, and we are asking for your certificate of insurance, not your declaration. If you are a business that has employees or automobile, then you will be asked to provide workman's compensation and automobile liability. So yes. And then eligibility continued, we will also be requesting your employment identification number. There are several different places that we ask you to input that. So just, again, please be mindful of any typos and errors and make sure you double, triple check that number. We do also ask you to submit a filled out IRS W-9 form, 2024 form or later, and it must be signed and dated within the last 12 months. And then last but not least is your most recent tax filing. We ask you to upload a copy of that within the application. Again, before we move on to the next section, which I will provide screenshots of what some of these documentations look like or where you can find them, you want to make sure that you are going back into the RFA to review the full required list. Yeah, so as we spoke about the active CBE certification number, this is what the CBE portal looks like. So you just want to type your business name up here where it says business name, and it will provide you with your CBE business. Once you click that, it will list out the CBE number that we have for you. So before you make your submission into the application, make sure that the number that you have is the same one as the one we have in the system for you. Next is the active DC business license number. We do use Scout DCRA to verify it. So if you want to type in your business address or you want to type in your business name and you want to make sure to verify that it does have an active status, again, this is also the system that we use to verify it. So that will be very helpful for you to make sure that all your documentation is on the up and up. Again, for those that have alternative licensure, you also want to make sure that you upload whatever that is within the DES application portal. For the clean hands, this is what it should look like. Again, you want to make sure that it is a compliant clean hands and that it was issued within 90 days of the application launch, which again for us is November 17th, 2025 or later. Some key things for the clean hands. Sometimes we have people who submit clean hands for themselves, their personal clean hands. You want to make sure you're providing the clean hands for your business. Again, it's compliant and that the EIN or the FEIN that you provided in the application portal and on your W-9 is consistent with the one that is shown on the clean hands document dated November 17th or later, and again, verifiable by mytaxdc.gov, which is how we verify your clean hands through your notice number. And again, this is just showing you how we validate your clean hands, just in case you want to do it for yourself. Once you go to the MyTaxDC website, you can scroll down to validate a certificate of clean hands for yourself to make sure that it is indeed compliant and make sure it maintains its compliant status throughout the application and if awarded throughout the grant program period. Again, for the certificate of insurance, you should be submitting the certificate of insurance, not your declaration, and it should look something similar to what's on the screen right now. Again, proof of commercial general liability is required for all applicants and grantees, and proof of workman's compensation and automobile liability as applicable if you have employees or if you have an automobile under your business. Again, your EIN number, you want to make sure that that number, we do request it at multiple points in the application, within the application portal, on your clean hands, on your W-9, you want to make sure that number is consistent across the board. And then last but not least, this is what the the IRS W-9 2024 form. So you want to make sure that you are providing the 2024 form or later, and that it has your business name, EIN, and it's signed and dated within the last 12 months. Moving on, we're going to cover some of the use of funds. Again, this is titles of these sections of the allowed use of funds. You want to make sure that you go within the RFA, and under each number, administrative software and technology, it provides a description. So we want to make sure that you go and read those descriptions. And then also, final approval for use of allowed funds is subject to approval by DSLBD. You should always keep in mind and ask when you're preparing your program plan, for those of you planning to apply for the contract services and the energy expansion plan, we do ask you for like your budget and program plan. You want to make sure the approved use of funds when crafting that document. And then this is the list of disallowed use of funds. You want to make sure that you also review this document within the RFA, the entire list. It is a pretty long list to make sure that you are listing you are listing your funds that are allowed. And then application types. So as we move into what the application will look like, there are two types of applications for this grant program. Two are under competitive portion, which is the CBE Energy Contract Services Grant and the Energy Expansion Grants, and then the lottery, which is the CBE Energy Business Lottery Grants. And this applies to how we will do qualifications for awardees. You want to make sure that you review the RFA. Within the RFA, it'll let you know how we are assessing both different types of applications, competitive and lottery. And scoring criteria. When completing your narrative portions of your application, as we'll get to in a little bit in the DES portal, you want to reference how each area of the evaluation is weighted. This is a screenshot from the RFA. Under the competitive application section of the RFA, each core area of evaluation has questions that are aligned with that area, and within this scoring criteria, you'll see how many points are allotted to that. And then additionally, within Appendix B of the RFA, you'll also see allocation of points. So this is how the panelists and the reviewers will assess each question or each criteria and the things that they will be considering when they're evaluating your answers. The selection process, you also want to review that. So once the review has been completed, initially we first do eligibility. So if you do not pass through eligibility for the competitive sections, you will not be qualified to move on to the narrative review, where the reviewers and panelists will review your answers. So that's why it's really important, and why we went through the different eligibility criterias, and to make sure that you are inputting the correct information. Because if you do not make it through eligibility, your narrative answers will not be reviewed. For the lottery, again, the only thing that is reviewed is your eligibility. So once you are deemed eligible, we will put you in the lottery to select you. And that will be selected by ward, by the way. And then another thing is you want to make sure we do intend to, once we share out the notice of grant awards, you are eligible to request a debriefing. That will come in the notifications you receive from the DSLBD team at the time of notification. And then this is the award information. I won't read all of these in detail, but I do want to just cover some things, which as of right now, NOGAs, which are the Notice of Grant Awards, are scheduled to be issued around May 1st. During the NOGA process, applicants may be asked, or awardees may be asked, for any of the documentation listed within Appendix A, which is the pre-award document requirements. Some of these documents look like program and budget plans, policies and procedures, etc. And then you also just make sure to refer to the Appendix A within the RFA for the entire list. This process, we also do make edits and clarifications. For those of you in the contract services and the expansion grant, you do provide a budget and a chart of your program deliverables. So this is where, if any edits or clarifications are needed, we will do that. The program period for the grant, again, begins once the grant agreement is signed by both us and you, and the grant agreement is executed. Continuing on the award information, another thing is reporting. That's a requirement of the grant. Reporting will be broken up into parts. One is activity reporting and the other is financial reporting. Both of these reports will be submitted through DES. For activity reporting, there will be an interim and final report requirements, which will be laid out within your grant agreement should you be awarded the grant. And per the RFA Appendix C, there is a list of what some of those reporting requirements will look like, such as program outcomes, achievements, explanations of unmet deliverables, etc. And lastly, in terms of disbursement payment, disbursement will begin after the execution of the grant agreement. And then last but not least is there may be modifications needed to your grant agreement, and all final grant agreements again may require an addenda, amendments, modifications, which our team will work with you to make those happen. So I just took, before we move on to the actual live demo of what the DES application system will look like, these are just some screenshots of what it looks like in the DES system when you go to apply for the grant. If you are already a CBE, you can actually just log in using the credentials that you have for your CBE login and DES and apply through there. But if you are not a CBE, you will need to create, you'll need to register for an account, which is pretty simple. You'll just use your email and such information. After you log in, which is the first screenshot all the way to the left, you'll be in, it'll show you the middle screenshot. And up there, you'll see what is circled. Give me a moment. And then give me 1 second. You'll see grant programs, and then you'll click into grant applications. And then once you've started your application and you're just coming back, maybe you saved it and you want to come back, you're actually going to start clicking into my application. So you're not starting a new application every time. You'll then be forwarded to the last screenshot all the way to the right, which provides you, if this is your first time, it provides you with all the open opportunities at DSLBD. You're going to want to click our program name, which is the FY26 CBE Sustainable Energy Grants. So this is the initial RFA review. So in a moment, I'm going to share this to my colleague who's going to walk you through what it will actually look like in the DES system as a live demo. Rosalia, just let me know when you want to share your screen.
Okay, perfect. I am going to take over and then let me know if you can see. Can you see my screen? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Perfect. All right. So everyone, this is a DES layout when you first log in. If you're already registered because you've recertified recently or you're in the process of applying right now, you'll see this as your main home page. You'll have your CBE portal, your grants portal, and then a compliance portal. When you're looking to apply for new grant opportunities, you're going to click here within the grants portal square. Then once you do that, you'll land on this second page here and you have your grant opportunities. You have grant application. This is where, as Aziza mentioned, you can see all of the current funding opportunities that are open within DSLBD. And then my application, let's say you've already submitted an application in the past and you just want to check in on the status. You want to see what documents you've previously uploaded. This is where you can see anything that you've already started working on. But for this demo, I'll show you guys a process of navigating it as someone starting it completely from scratch. So I'm going to click on grant opportunities, then I can click on grant application. And here I'll see the different programs that are open for me to apply to, the open date time as well as the close date time. So big thing, as Aziza mentioned, 2 p.m. close time. It's not a close of business deal. So I'm going to click on the hyperlink here where the title of the grant is, or the grant program name is. So FY26 CBE Sustainable Energy Grants. When I click on this, again, I'm going to see some of the same details. I'm going to see the program name, a brief program description. This is language pulled from the RFA, the division, the business opportunities team, the application open date time, the close date time. And then here you have a link to our current funding opportunities page, which is where you'll see, you'll always be able to find the most recent version of the RFA. Then to start the application, I can just click on this button right here that says Start Application. And then again, here you're going to see a few more details that are just restating some of the things you find in the RFA, like the program name, the last day to apply, where to find the RFA, and then who you can reach out to via email in case you have any questions. So then I'm just going to click Start Application. And then I'm going to go through all of the different questions. The first one is just related to language access. So if we know we need to provide additional support or translation services, we have access to that data. I'm just going to move forward with my preferred language is English. Then I'm going to click Next. And now I'm going to fill in a little bit about my personal business's contact information. So first, I'm going to select the option that best describes me. I'm going to fill out the application today as if I were the business owner. and then move forward with all the required fields. And you'll know a question is required because it'll have a little red asterisk to the left of the question. I'm going to type in a fake FEIN. And then just note that, like, if you try to type letters, for example, right now I'm trying to type WER, it doesn't work. So you just want to make sure you're typing in actual numerical values. For your email address, same thing. If you do like test.com and then you try to move on to a later section, it's not going to allow you because it's not proper email formatting. And so I'm just going to continue moving forward, filling out these details. Then for the business street address, this is pulling data directly from the district's Mars repository. So if you have an address that's not a DC-based address, it's not going to appear here. And it means the business address won't be fully populated and you might not be able to move forward to the next section. So you want to make sure you're typing the address correctly. Then the system will auto-populate the rest of the details associated with your address, such as your zip code, the ward your business resides in, as well as, if it's available, the zoning classification. And then for this example, I'm going to pretend like my business address and my mailing address is the same. So once I click on that checkbox, I don't need to fill in those details. But if that's not the case for your business, then you would just type in your mailing street address as well. And then the system pulls in details from the account, my user account with the DES. So I don't have to type in my first name, last name, or my email. I can just adjust like my phone number or my title if I need to, and then I can move on to the next section of the application. Here we have eligibility questions. These are simply screening questions. At the end of the day, the program team will review everything that's submitted for eligibility and provide kind of the final determination on whether an application kind of move forward into next phases of the process. But this will at least give you an idea of like, do I continue in the process based off of what I know about my business, right? So I'm just going to say, yes, I have an active business license. Yes, I have a corp registration file number. I do have a clean hands issued on or after November 17th. And then, yes, I'll upload my commercial general liability insurance. I'm going to say it's not applicable for these. And then I can move forward. Let's say I said I didn't have an active business license, and I'll get this notice right here that says like you've indicated you don't have an active DC business license. If I say no, but I have alternative licensure, I can move forward in the process and then in the next phases of the application, rather than asking me to upload my basic business license, it's going to ask me to upload my alternate licensure details. For this demo, I'll move forward with the example saying that, yes, I do have a basic business license. So then after that, I can click next. And then here we get to the section where I'm asked to provide a bit more details about my business as well as upload some documents. So to upload the files, it's very similar to just uploading files anywhere else. Upload files, I select it from my computer, and then I just want to make sure I'm clicking. Just like, is it an EIN or is it a social that's on the W-9? Select the tax classification status. I'll say LLC for this example. And then I need to type my business license number. This is synced directly to DLCP's database, right? So if I start typing a number and it's not part of their repository, I'm going to get this like blank drop down section, right? I'm going to type in a business license number right now just to give you guys a feel of what happens if you do have a number that's in the system. 248. Right? So that way I have a number that displays right here. And if I were to select it, then what happens is the system gives me a notice, right? It'll tell me, in this case, this is a fake number, so it says business license number not found. If the number is found, I'll have one of two messages that get displayed to me. It'll be, we've identified that the business number provided is associated with whatever your business name is and your current status is active. Make sure you maintain the status. You need to maintain an active status throughout the period of performance if you are to be selected. if the status happens to be expired, revoked, any other thing that indicates to us that you might not be in good standing, then you will still be able to move forward with submitting your application. However, note that once we get to actual eligibility review, that could affect whether you're able to move forward in the process for the application. So you will get a little bit of a notice here. If you enter a number and you get red text, that's a sign that maybe you want to take care of those details before you submit. So I'm going to move forward just entering some of these fake files in here. And then same thing for the corp online. If I'm typing a fake number, it's not recognized from the system. I'm going to get a blank drop down. When I type a real corp online number, I want to make sure I'm selecting the number that appears here in this little drop down menu to make sure the system records the information correctly. For the L notice number, so the notice number that goes on your certificate of clean hands, we're not connected to OTR data, so you can just enter that manually. Make sure to type the full number, no typos, and then you'll also be asked to upload your clean hands. So I'm just going to upload the document here. And then here we get to the section where you're asked to upload your certificate of insurance. As Aziza mentioned, commercial general liability is required regardless of what funding pool you're applying to. If you have employees or autos, then you want to make sure that your certificate of insurance you're uploading also demonstrates that you have these coverages. So I'm going to upload the document. Okay, then the next one is my most recent and complete set of tax filings. Again, it's also required. I'm just going to select my file, upload, and click done. And then here you have an extra section. If you have additional files that you want to upload as it relates to your business or something related to your eligibility, you can also upload it here and then move on to the next step, which the next step is basically the competitive questions that you see in the RFA. So you get to indicate what opportunities you want to apply to. And so this part of the application has a little bit of conditional logic, right? So to start, you're only going to see really two questions. Which grant opportunity would you like to apply to? And then for you to enter your CBE number if one of the opportunities you're applying to requires that you're a CBE. If it's not applicable, you can enter NA for this second question. But for the first one, once I click on the checkbox for the opportunities that I'm interested in applying to, that's when the system will display to me the different questions that are also listed out in the RFA. So if I'm applying to contract services, I'll see the heading for contract services. As Aziza mentioned, the system will also ask you to select which service area you're applying for, so marketing or back office. If you select back office, you want to make sure that the responses you're providing are addressing all the service areas mentioned within the parentheses text right here. And then again, everything that's required will have a red asterisk to the left of it. So then you want to make sure that you go in and fill out all the required sections. And so this is what the layout looks like. I'm going to also pretend like I'm applying to the energy expansion and lottery grant for the sake of this demo, just so you guys can see the full layout, right? So if I did contract services, I did energy expansion, I'm going to see all of the questions for energy expansion, and then I'm also going to see a series of attestations that are required for the lottery grant. So I'm going to fill in these details and upload my files. I'm not going to read through the questions because all of these are available in the RFA, but just to give you guys a feel for what it looks like when I'm applying. Okay. Okay. And then here, this is where I would upload my budget. As you guys see in the help text, you want to make sure you're using the template that was provided in Appendix F of the RFA, and then you would upload that completed template as your budget. Test 8, test 9, test 10. Then here you also have additional files that you can upload depending on what service area you're applying to. As you'll notice, it doesn't have that red asterisk to the left of it. These are optional, but here you guys have the space to upload additional supporting files for that specific category. So then I'm gonna just pretend to fill in all of these. Nine. And then you'll notice that here I uploaded one file, but it's populating with two. That's because all of your budgets that you're uploading, if you're applying for contract services and energy expansion, they get stored in the same place. So don't get scared if you see that like multiple things are getting uploaded, but you only meant to upload one. It's pulling data from a section that you probably previously filled out if you are applying for both of those funding pools. Then I'm just going to do my attestation. And once I click next, let's see, what did I miss? I forgot. See, look, I forgot to select what service area I'm applying for under contract services. So I'm just going to say I'm selecting marketing. But if you do happen to miss anything that's required, the system will notify you and it's not going to let you move forward to the next section. So now I believe I filled in everything. I'm going to click next. There's a demographic section, completely optional. So I'm just going to skip over it. And then here is the attestation. This basically has all the text from the statement of certification that you guys see in the RFA. Rather than printing it and having to upload it into the system, you can just fill it out here electronically, and that will serve as your submission for the statement of certification. So I'm just going to enter test data in here. CEO, phone number, my email. And then to kind of read through all of this, if it's true, then you would click agree, then you'd fill out all of these details. If you say yes to these questions, then you'll get prompted to enter more details. I'm just going to say no. Then if I have received any grants, be it from DSLBD or any other agency within the last 3 years, I want to make sure I'm disclosing those. Same with any sub-grants or contracts. So this is the two text boxes where you would provide that language, then digital signature, organization name, and then final opportunity to upload any additional documents if necessary. As I'm filling out the application, I can kind of toggle back and forth between different sections as long as I've filled out everything that's required. The system does allow for saving for later. However, we received a few tickets that functionality is currently not working. So while our IT team works to resolve that, what I recommend is if you're drafting anything related to the competitive section, I would recommend drafting it on a separate document. And then once we have guidance that the save for later functionality has been fixed, then you guys can kind of determine what's the better fit for you, whether you're doing it directly within the DS only or drafting everything externally and then coming into the system to make your uploads. So I just wanted to flag that regarding the save for later button. Once it's resolved, I guess I can show you guys how it would look like. But I'd get prompted with like, are you sure you want to save it for later? I would click OK, and then I would get this notice. We've saved your progress for later. I can resume my application directly by clicking on resume application, or like Aziza mentioned, using the navigation bar, I can click on grant opportunities, my applications, and then I can see everything that I've started and what the status of it is. So if it's in progress or if I've submitted it. For sustainable energy grants, it shows that it's still in progress. So I can click on it, and then I'll have this button here that says resume application. On the sidebar here, I'll be able to see everything that I have uploaded in response to my application, as well as details of how I filled out different parts of the application. And then because I haven't submitted, it won't save this, but I'll resume. Oh, okay. Next. Next. I'm just gonna pre-fill this in really quickly. Next. And then it will make me redo the attestation, but that's part of what our IT team is looking to resolve right now. But that is why I recommend the time being, just anything that is like very long narrative that requires you to kind of refine and update as you go along the process, I would recommend drafting externally. So let me just put in these names. And then I should be able to submit. And then I'll get this notice. I'll also get a notification via email that I've submitted my application. And I should always be able to kind of go back to my applications here, navigation bar, my application, see everything that I've like worked on, started, submitted. And then when I click on my application, similar to when you save your progress for later, you'll be able to see everything that you've like uploaded and how you filled out your responses to certain sections of the application. Any questions? Just on the DES part. Let me check the chat.
I don't think there were any specific for the DES, but I do see some. But before we move on to that part, Keith did want to quickly do some announcements.
Hey, real quick. Thanks,
Yes,
Rosalie. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So just real quick, Keith Howard, I manage the Business Opportunities Division for the Department of Small and Local Business Development. Good to see a lot of familiar faces out there. Just want to just give a quick shout out to our Director, Rosemary Suggs Evans, for entrusting us with this grant. This will be our fifth go around of the grant. The grant gets better and better each year. Obviously, I want to thank Rosalia and Aziza for they don't leave any stone unturned, as you guys can see. They work tirelessly to make sure every detail is covered, and they do an amazing job. But quite honestly, it takes our entire team, which is all on the call. So I want to thank all of them. And then this grant doesn't exist without our wonderful partnership with the Department of Energy and Environment. So I do want to shout out Lance, Jennifer. You guys have been with us every step of the way. We appreciate your engagement as we go through some of the dynamics of the grant as it changes. Just a couple reminders for you all. One, you heard Aziza talk about deadlines, right? There are a lot of deadlines and timeframes and windows. So I'm strict about that, right? So read whatever you need to read, but know your deadlines. There, 205 doesn't make it. 159 does, but 205 doesn't make it. So we had people last year call, but 2 o'clock's the deadline, Eastern Standard Time. The other thing is on the eligibility. Again, it's pretty laid out. It's very clear. If you've got questions about eligibility, make sure you ask your questions during the question phase, which we've already said when those days are. And of course, we're going to take some questions in a few minutes. And then lastly, for those of you that win, and I wish everybody the best in your application, but just to make sure that we're reporting, that too has a timeline. That's part of the grant process, is the reporting. So I can't say that enough, that we just want to make sure that once you've done this fine work, that you report it properly so that we can do our reporting. So that's all I have. I'm going to turn back over to Aziza, and we'll tackle a couple of these questions and let you guys move on with your day. Thanks again.
Thank you, Keith. We're about wrapping up. I just do want to share that there are some disclaimers, the important legal disclaimers. I did put this up here, but again, as emphasized throughout this presentation, you want to go back into the RFA and read these in full. This is just a brief overview. The RFA is a pretty long document for you to understand fully what the grant contains and what's asked of you from the grant and what's asked of us. So again, you want to make sure that you're reviewing that. And then before we start the Q&A, I do want to emphasize again the questions policy. Outside of today in about 10 minutes, any questions that you may have, must be submitted via writing to the business.opportunities@dc.gov page here. If you want to write it down, many of you have already engaged with that email. And again, the deadline for that is next Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Some of you did already put questions into the chat, so I'm going to go in and start answering them. If any of you have additional questions, again, put them in the chat and I will go through them and answer them. The first question, Malik Edwards, the system requires the business license number and does not allow you to input an alternative. The next question allows you to upload a copy of alternative license, but you must still provide a number. If usually that would still let you bypass. If it's not letting you go past to the next section, send us an email with a screenshot of that, and we will connect with the DES team to help you with that issue. And then again, how does the FY26 residential energy contractor support grant differ from the energy contract services grant? We don't want to get too in depth because that RFA for which we will call REX, the residential energy contract support grant, has not been issued yet, but just based on some things that you can also see in the NOFA. First thing is that for the residential energy contract support grant, you do not have to be a CBE to be an awardee nor to receive an award. So under the contract services of the CBE Sustainable Energy Grant, you do have to be both the awardee, you have to be a CBE, and the people that you will be providing those services must be CBEs too. That is not the case with the REX grant. Additionally, the funding amounts are a little different, which you can reference into the NOFA. And additionally, the service topics are also slightly different in terms of the definitions of what we're looking for back office. But we will also, again, be having an info session for the REX grant. So when we detail that, we can speak a little bit more in detail into that. Hi, I'm a resident-owned home business. Would this be something that I qualify for as an energy savings? Thank you. I'm assuming that you may be referring to the energy expansion grant. I would refer you to the RFA. Under the competitive applications portion of the RFA, there are actual questions that we ask about the proposal you're submitting. So I would, that is how we are assessing your submission. So when you're reviewing that, if that aligns with what the program or the process that you're doing, then I would apply. But if not, then that is up to your discretion. But definitely go and reference the RFA for what we're looking for that portion. If I'm assuming right, and you are looking for the energy expansions funding. Could the slide deck be provided to as a reference? We will not be sharing the slide deck, but we are recording this session and this will be posted to DSLBD's website. And once we have that link, we'll share with everybody registered as well. So for the Kim Fry, will the reporting be requested at the beginning of the grant? So for the contract services and the energy expansion, those are programmatic. So you'll actually have to be doing programmatic work, and then there's an interim report, and then there will be a final report, which will be laid out in your grant agreement. If you are applying for the lottery grant, that is a reimbursement. So you will have to provide the reporting such as the receipts and things of that nature prior to receiving the funding, but there will also be a final report that's required for lottery people as well. That's more of an impact report. But for lottery specifically, there is, if you're in terms of reporting, before getting funding, you will have to provide those receipts as this is a reimbursement grant. And then the next question is, but does the energy support grant cover funding for hiring new DC residents, obviously gearing towards sustainability? There is a question about your impact on DC workforce. So I will reference, if I were you, the RFA about that portion. There is for both the contract services and the energy expansion grant, if when you provide your budget chart, there's a part for payroll, your FTEs, and also subcontracting. You want to make sure you review that, particularly for the contract services, CBE contract services. Well, for both, you need to identify who these subcontractors are. For CBE contract services, they must be another CBE. And then for the energy expansion grant, they must either be a CBE or a district-based business. I hope that answered your question. If you need me to elaborate, just shoot me a question with the specifics to the business opportunities page and we'll elaborate. Can DSLBD require applicants to submit actual financial statements to support cost justification? This would allow applicants to prove how they would use the funds under budget allocation. I'm not sure I understand your question. Are you talking about the lottery? If you could provide a little bit more context, or if you're talking about the energy expansion or the contract services, CBE contract services, there is a question in there where we actually provide you as an appendix into the RFA, a chart of your budget allocation, which we ask the budget, how the amounts per category, so like payroll, things of that nature, and how you are coming up with those dollar amounts. So if you're referring to that, we do ask for that. So for proof of demonstratability, can applicants use current past performance with existing agencies? So that is one of the additional information we ask within the RFA. So yes. If you have very specific questions, again, please, with certain nuances, you could share them to the business opportunities email, and then we can elaborate there. I am at the end of all the questions that have been submitted through the chat. Again, we will stay on until 1 o'clock, which is the allocated time. So if you have any questions until then, please feel free to type them in. Otherwise, any questions you might have between now and next Friday, which is the deadline period, you want to make sure that you send them via email to the business.opportunities@dc.gov, which is on the screen right now. Otherwise, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and we hope to see all of your applications coming in soon. So the question, are all awarded grants decided via lottery? No, only the CBE Energy Business Support Lottery grants is through lottery. The other two, CBE Energy Contract Services and Energy Expansion Grant, are competitive. So you will have to answer the competitive questions and they will be scored according to the scoring criteria laid out into the RFA.
I see one more question in here. If you experience issues in the application process, where do you email the screen captures? Is it the business opportunities email? If you're experiencing technical issues in the DES system, what we would actually need you to do is submit a case, and I'm going to reshare my screen really quickly just to show that process. It's similar to when maybe you submit a case for certification, but when you scroll, no matter what tab of the DES you're in, whenever you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see this like footer that says need help, and then you can click on submit a case. And then you would enter the details of your request. Someone from our technical team will reach out to you to help you resolve that. If it's anything related to program questions, RFA questions, those you still want to make sure you're directing to the business opportunities email. But if you experience something like an error message, something isn't uploading the way you're expecting it to be uploading, then that's where you would submit a case by scrolling all the way to the bottom and clicking on the submit a case button. And then Aziza, you have one more.
Yeah,
Is a
thank you,
lottery
Rosalia.
grant requirement only attestations?
So technically no. So for the lottery, you must also meet the eligibility requirement that we went through. But on top of that, there aren't any competitive application questions. So if you can attest to all those statements, then you will be eligible and put into the lottery pool as long as you have all the eligibility documentations are correct and approved. And I think that's it. It is 101. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Rosalia, for coming in and doing a demo of DES. If you guys do have any questions navigating DES, any errors, again, you want to make sure that you are submitting a case sooner than later. You don't want to wait till the end. And, there may be any issues, again, you want to start your applications as early as possible. And again, as Rosalia said during her demonstration, for those narrative portions for the competition, you want to save it in a different Word file just so that you have that just in case there is any glitch in the system. All right, thanks everyone and have a good rest of your afternoon.